There are exactly 3 numbers in your bank account that will completely change how your life feels. Not your salary, not your job title, not how many hours you work. 3 specific net worth numbers. And here is the strange part. Most people who hit these numbers do not even notice it happening. They just wake up one day and realize something inside them has shifted. Decisions that used to keep them awake at night suddenly feel easy. Conversations that used to make them anxious suddenly feel irrelevant. If you do not know these 3 numbers, you have no idea how close you might already be to one of them. And you have no idea how far away the next one actually is. By the end of this video, you will know exactly where you stand and exactly what changes at each level. My name is Alex, and this is Zero to Wealthy, where we give you honest financial information that actually changes your life. Let us start with Level 1, Survival Mode. Survival mode is not defined by a specific dollar amount. It is defined by a feeling. The feeling of being one unexpected expense away from chaos. If your car breaks down and the repair bill creates genuine panic. If a medical bill arrives and you immediately start doing mental math about which other bills will have to wait. If the question, what happens if I lose my job tomorrow, produces actual physical anxiety, you are in survival mode. For most people, survival mode means having less than 1 month of expenses saved. Often it means having essentially 0 net worth or even negative net worth due to debt. Here is what life feels like in survival mode. Every financial decision is reactive. You are not planning. You are responding to whatever happened most recently. A surprise expense does not just cost you money, it costs you sleep, focus, and emotional energy for days or weeks afterward. The psychological weight of survival mode is something people who have never experienced it genuinely cannot understand. It is not just about not having money. It is about the constant low-grade hum of financial anxiety that runs in the background of literally everything else in your life. Now here is Level 2, the first major shift, what I call the breathing room threshold. The breathing room threshold happens somewhere between 3 and 6 months of expenses saved, combined with no high-interest debt. For most American households, this translates to somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 in accessible savings, depending on your lifestyle and location. This number might sound modest. It is not life-changing money. You cannot retire on it. You cannot buy a house with it. But something happens at this threshold that has almost nothing to do with the dollar amount itself. The car breaks down. You pay for the repair. You feel a moment of irritation, and then nothing. No spiral. No mental math about which other bills wait. No sleepless night. You pay the bill, and you move on with your day. That shift from spiral to, well, that is annoying, is one of the most significant emotional transitions a person experiences in their financial life. And it happens at a number that is genuinely achievable for most people within 1 to 3 years of focused saving. People at the breathing room threshold describe a specific feeling. The background hum of anxiety I mentioned earlier. It does not disappear completely, but it goes quiet. It becomes something you can ignore most of the time instead of something that is always present. Decisions also change at this level. You start being able to say no to bad financial decisions, not because you cannot afford them, but because you are not desperate enough to say yes. Desperation is one of the most expensive financial states a person can be in because desperate decisions are almost always bad decisions. The breathing room threshold is where desperation starts to leave your decision-making. Now let us talk about Level 3, the number that changes everything. What most people call financial independence, but what I prefer to call optionality. Financial independence is typically calculated using what is known as the 4% rule. You take your annual living expenses and multiply by 25. That number represents the amount of invested assets that could theoretically support your lifestyle indefinitely through investment returns alone. For someone living on $50,000 per year, that number is $1.25 million. For someone living on $80,000 per year, that number is $2 million. I want to be clear about something important. Reaching this number does not mean most people immediately quit their jobs and disappear to a beach. The actual life change is more subtle and, in many ways, more powerful than that. What changes at this level is not your bank balance relative to your lifestyle. What changes is your relationship to your job, your boss, and every difficult conversation in your professional life. When you reach optionality, you can walk into any meeting, any performance review, any difficult workplace conversation with a fundamentally different energy. Not because you are planning to quit. Most people at this level do not quit, but because you could. And that possibility changes everything about how you show up. People describe it as speaking more honestly in meetings, taking on the project they actually want instead of the project that looks good politically, negotiating harder because the worst-case outcome, which is losing the job, is no longer something they fear. This is the level where work for many people paradoxically becomes more enjoyable, not because the work changed, but because the fear underneath the work disappeared. Now here is the part of this video that I think matters more than the 3 numbers themselves. Most people assume that the jump from level 1 to level 2 is the hardest part of this journey, and the jump from level 2 to level 3 is where the real difficulty lies because the numbers get so much larger. The data and the lived experience of people who have made this journey suggests something almost the opposite. The jump from level 1 to level 2, from survival mode to breathing room, is often the hardest psychologically because it requires breaking habits and patterns that were formed during genuinely difficult financial circumstances. It requires building a savings habit from a starting point of having essentially nothing extra. The jump from level 2 to level 3, while it requires a much larger dollar amount, often happens faster than people expect. Because once the habits are built, once the breathing room exists, the same habits that got you to level 2 simply continue. Compounding does the rest of the work. The behavioral change has already happened. What remains is largely time and consistency. This is why the first 6 months to 2 years of any serious financial journey feels so much harder than the years that follow. You are not just saving money during that period, you are rewiring how you relate to money entirely. And once that rewiring is complete, the larger numbers stop feeling impossible and start feeling like an inevitable result of habits you have already built. So where are you right now? If you are in survival mode, the breathing room threshold is not as far away as it might feel. 3 to 6 months of expenses is the target. And the psychological shift that happens when you cross that line is more significant than almost any other financial milestone you will experience. If you are at the breathing room threshold, level 3 is closer than the dollar amount suggests because the habits you have already built are doing more of the work than you realize. And if you are already at level 3, I want you to understand something. The number is not the achievement. The relationship with fear that disappeared along the way, that is the achievement. And it is worth recognizing. 3 numbers, 3 feelings, 1 journey that almost everyone underestimates how much it will change who they are, not just what they own. If this video helped you understand where you stand and where you are going, hit the like button right now. Subscribe to Zero to Wealthy for more honest financial content that actually changes how you think about money. Drop a comment below and tell me, which level are you at right now? I read every comment and respond personally. I will see you in the very next one.